Here we've got a really low competition sub niche, which I think has got some potential for easy sales. In this video, I'm going to share multiple sub niche ideas with you that you can create designs to hopefully get some more sales leading up to St. Patrick's Day. And to help you out, I've also added some new graphics to my free print-on-demand graphics bundle, which is linked down below in the description. You don't even need to give me your email, it's totally free. And the new graphics I've added to it are, first of all, the cat illustration that you see in the thumbnail of this video. Then you will get a beer mug, which is essentially going to be really useful because lots of people like to drink beer on St. Patrick's Day and many other occasions. Then we've got a clover graphic, which you can use to decorate all of your St. Patrick's Day designs. And last but not least, a St. Patrick's Day themed hat, which you could place on top of different, I don't know, animals, fruit graphics, different objects to make them St. Patrick's Day themed. So have fun designing with those graphics. Also, for everyone who's a member of the channel, I've added some new graphics to the members exclusive graphics folder, which is linked in the community tab in the members only section. And one of those graphics is a St. Patrick's Day themed owl, which I think can be really useful for the teaching sub niche because both owls and teachers are associated with wisdom. So have fun using that graphic and let's get started with the first sub niche. So the first niche I wanted to recommend to you is animals. And that is obviously a very high level niche, but I'm going to give you a ton of suggestions here of how to niche down further and target a more specific audience. And some of the later niches I'm going to share with you are actually going to be a lot more under the radar and less competition, so stick around for those. So essentially animals, obviously there is tons of them. You ideally don't want to use the most obvious ones like a dog, a flamingo is what we can see instantly here, unicorns, that sort of stuff is going to be very overdone. But if you find a very specific niche animal that already doesn't have too much competition but is getting sales, then also crossing that with St. Patrick's Day is definitely a great idea. Now, one design that stood out to me right here is the Shenanigan Squad on the right hand side with the flamingos. Now you could use that same approach and apply it to different animals. It's probably not just going to work with flamingos. I know the flamingo thing is sort of like a design aimed at girls, but you could make a variation of that for men. Now just think about an animal that is very masculine and put it in there instead. You could combine different animals. So here we've got a llama and a sloth. That's definitely a cool idea. We've got a pug wearing a St. Patrick's Day hat, so that's the sort of thing you can do with the free graphics in my bundle that I discussed at the start. And what I quite like is this style right here with the cat that is filled with shamrocks or clovers. There's another design example of that further down. Right here we've got a Great Dane filled with Irish clovers or shamrocks, and I think those sort of designs, whilst like right now these are not getting a ton of sales, but we're still quite a way out from St. Patrick's Day, but those sort of designs can definitely stand out a lot better because there's not that many of them, right? It's a very specific animal, it's the shape filled with clovers, and it definitely looks unique. So one more tip I can give you, if I had this design I would also upload it to just a green t-shirt, just to stand out a bit more on search results, because a lot of these are still placed on black t-shirts for the thumbnail. Also really like this one right here, Shamroctopus. It looks hilarious. It's holding beer and it's got the shamrock sort of intertwined with octopus. So you could use that same idea and concept and apply it to other animals. Mix them with beer, mix them with the word shamrock, and there you've got yourself a unique St. Patrick's Day design that actually has a chance of selling. Don't just do the most obvious thing like a cat graphic with a hat and that's it. Your chances of selling will be really low with that. So try and be creative here, try and find some more sub niches within the animal sub niche of St. Patrick's Day. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we've got a little bit more of a specific niche. This one is St. Patrick's Day cruise. And I thought this is a great idea because obviously there will be people going on a cruise during St. Patrick's Day and they might want to wear like a matching outfit in their group. There's some different ways to approach this. We've got cruising and boozing. So once again, mixing alcohol with the topic. That's 3 different topics in one right there. You can just do a general design of a ship that is green, maybe with a leprechaun like this person has done. If we scroll down further, we've got some Irish flags in this. You could cross it with 2023. Again, that's like an additional step to make it more specific to this current year. Always include that in your title as well for that extra chance of getting sales this year, especially if you're in the lower tiers. That will definitely help you out. St. Patrick's Day, boozing and cruising. So a lot of these are aimed at people who like to drink and go on cruises, obviously. A lot of these designs look fairly similar, so try and stand out. Once again, you could use a design that's uploaded to a green t-shirt because there doesn't seem to be a lot of them here, and many of these are also not necessarily cruise related, so this doesn't seem to be a very massive niche. Now, is it going to get thousands of sales every day? Probably not, but it is one of those low competition sub niches that is a bit under the radar and that might be a bit easier to sell in than some of the bigger, more obvious ones. Moving on, sub niche number 3 is sports, and once again high level, but there's tons of ideas here of how to niche down. So we've got the obvious sports as usual. We've got baseball and basketball, that sort of stuff, usually crossed with clovers. Either it's a clover silhouette with the sport inside of it, or the other way around, we've got a baseball with clovers inside of the baseball. That's definitely a good sort of strategy, but once again, what I would say is don't use basketball. It's been done a million times. Don't do baseball, it's just too obvious. Try and find different sports which also do well but are a bit more under the radar. So we've got weightlifting right here that will probably have less competition than baseball and basketball. We've got hockey, and I think this design is once again a great example of what you could do. An American flag that has shamrocks instead of the stars already looks really cool, and then mixing it with a sport is definitely a great design concept that's fairly easy to create and can definitely stand out in search results because it looks quite unique. One thing that also came to mind is pickleball for me, because pickleball already has a very green color scheme, and that obviously matches really well with St. Patrick's Day. And once again, pickleball, even though it's trending and it is quite competitive, is not going to be as competitive as the mainstream sports like baseball, that sort of stuff. So if you can find a unique idea to cross pickleball with St. Patrick's Day, you might have a way higher chance of selling than just, creating a clover design with a basketball inside. So try and think outside the box here. Sports, really popular, lots of people interested in it, and if you find the right design idea, then you can definitely get some sales right here for St. Patrick's Day. So next up, we've got a niche that is kind of under the radar and is not very obvious. So everyone thinks of drinking when they think of St. Patrick's Day, but no one thinks of sober people that also want to celebrate or attend St. Patrick's Day. So here we've got some designs to say, kiss me, I'm sober, I'm the sober half. So potentially the woman that goes out with the man who's drinking, something like that. Here we've got kiss me crossed out, and it says tip me, I'm sober so you don't have to be. And that is obviously a great design idea for a bartender who's working on St. Patrick's Day. So maybe consider that as a sub niche as well. St. Patrick's Day plus bartender, and we've got help me, I'm sober. So there's different funny phrases right here that you could be using, and relatively easy to design for, as you can see. Like just some text with a clover making up the A right there is enough to get some sales. I mean, 3 million BSR right now is not amazing, but not a lot of t-shirts for this will sell the start of February. St. Patrick's Day is not until the 17th of March, so these designs will definitely do a lot better when it comes closer to the date. Some literally just say sober with a clover in there or a shamrock. So try and find some cool ideas, some funny ideas especially for this sub niche of sober people on St. Patrick's Day. Sub niche number 5 that I found for you is pirates, and there's definitely some potential here because as we can see, some of these are already doing pretty well, 700k BSR, and there's some reviews here as well, which indicates that they were probably doing really well last year or the year before. So the thing with this niche that I noticed and why I want to recommend it is that almost all of these designs just say the exact same phrases. So we've got Irish, which is on like half of them, and then the other half just seems to be down for shenanigans or something along the lines of shenanigans. And I think that's important to note, because rather than copying that, try and find a new funny phrase or a new way to design for this that actually stands out in these search results. And it's not the most competitive sub niche for St. Patrick's Day, so if you get a creative idea that doesn't look like all of the other ones, then you've got a way bigger chance of selling. So I think there's definitely some potential here. Try and maybe also look in the normal pirate niche and see what sort of designs sell well there, and then think about whether you can sort of put a St. Patrick's Day spin on them. I hope you have some success with this sub niche and have fun designing. Next up, we've got a sub niche which can often be quite popular for these sort of holidays or celebrations, and that is St. Patrick's Day, but it's my birthday. This is definitely worth considering. As you can see right here, the top seller, it's got 250k BSR. That's pretty mental considering it's still over a month and a half away. Yeah, this is definitely a niche worth considering. There's not too much competition and the designs are fairly easy to create. You could also, rather than doing the standard sentence of Happy St. Patrick's Day and it's my birthday, you could target specific ages. So here we've got one that says my 50th birthday, and especially those round numbers will see a lot more potential for sales, so I would definitely consider doing that. Maybe you could also cross it somehow with the year they were born in. So for 2023, you would want to consider all of the years that have a 3 at the end of it, like 1973 for everyone who's turning 50, for example, because adding that in there might also make it more specific to a certain target audience and give you a bit of an edge over all of the other sort of broadly targeted designs. Try and be creative here, try and stand out and create a few design variations to hopefully pick up some sales in this St. Patrick's Day sub niche. And last but not least, here we've got a really low competition sub niche, which I think has got some potential for easy sales. So this is Kiss Me, I'm Colorblind, only 175 results. And I did go to page 3 as well, by the way. The results don't change. So the idea with this, very straightforward. Someone who's colorblind would wear a red shirt thinking it's green, but obviously it's not. So I think that's quite funny, and obviously not much competition. One of these shirts has got 11 reviews. That definitely proves that there's potential and that these have probably sold quite well in the past. Most of these designs all look very similar. So Kiss Me, I'm Colorblind, and a clover in the middle. There's more things than just clovers that are St. Patrick's Day related. So you could use different graphics that still sort of match the theme and use the same phrase on a red t-shirt, right? That way you can easily stand out in this niche because literally all of these designs are copying each other for the most part, and you don't have a lot of competition. So I hope you can see some success with this niche. Once again, it's one of those that probably won't see like hundreds and hundreds of sales. According to my fishing lake analogy, which if you haven't seen that video, by the way, check it out. It's really handy for finding and picking better niches. But according to my fishing lake analogy, this is like the second best niche. It's low competition, low results, maybe not tons of sales, but there is sales and the competition is fairly low. It doesn't always have to be perfect where it's low competition and tons of sales. This is also one that's definitely worth considering, and I hope that some of you can benefit from this sub niche. If you want to have a higher chance of getting sales during the month of March, then make sure to check out this video next, where I share 7 different niches with you that are going to see an increase in sales.